guys, obviously I'll start the video off by saying that I'm in a different room now. I moved across the country and now we have a teal wall for the videos for the posters to go on, and I added Severance up over there. So yeah, that's the kind of big obvious change that you'll see, is new background for the videos. But yeah, other than that, I'll get straight into today's video, which I'm trying a bit of a different format for this one, which instead of breaking down an entire show, I wanted to break down like a pivotal episode. So today we're going to be talking about Season 4, Episode 3 of Succession, Connor's Wedding. So I'm going to immediately start here by saying, if you have not seen Succession and you would still like to watch it and don't want to be spoiled, click off now. This whole video is going to be a spoiler. Obviously, we are breaking down the entire episode. And also, a full series analysis of Succession is coming. I'm in the process of writing it now. You will get that sometime in January, according to my current plans. But yeah, if you do not want to be spoiled for Connor's Wedding episode of Succession, do not watch this video. Go watch that first, come back once you have seen it. And also, if you haven't seen Succession and you don't plan on watching it, I don't know how much sense this video will make to you in general or why you would click on it, to be honest, but anyway. We're going to start with my personal thoughts on this episode, because I've said before, this is my favourite episode of television ever. I love this episode. It is so important to the show as a whole and where the series ends up at the end of season 4, which is the final of the entire show. Like, Connor's Wedding really is such a pivotal point of Succession, and this episode in particular really shows us who our characters truly are. I think this is the first time in Succession we truly see, especially the siblings, at their most raw and vulnerable, and I think that's why it is such an important episode and why it is so good. It's some of the show's best writing and directing. I love the video of director Mark Mylod breaking down how they put together this episode, and it truly is phenomenal. I will link that down below. And also, I think this cast is always fantastic. The acting in Succession is one of its strengths, absolutely. Nothing shows that more than this episode. Like, the performances in this are so unbelievably good. So yeah, I mean, it's just, my personal thoughts are just that I love Succession, it's my favourite show, and this is the best episode of television, in my opinion. Now, before I break down the episode, I should, quickly recap kind of what happens just before in the previous couple of episodes, just so we understand kind of where we're at. Okay, so heading into Season 4, Episode 3 of Succession, the siblings, so Kendall, Roman and Shiv predominantly, but Connor kind of, are all estranged from Logan. Especially our main three, Kendall, Roman and Shiv, as I mentioned, because at the end of Season 3, they attempted a takeover of Waystar Royco and failed. Logan managed to stop it through many other things which we won't talk about here because they're not relevant. But so now the three of them are attempting to work together away from Logan. They attempted to outbid him in a deal with Pierce, and essentially the three of them are not speaking to Logan, apart from in the episode prior to this. Logan went and confronted them when they were with Connor the night before his wedding, obviously, and we get, the famous line, a really pivotal point of the show where Logan tells them that they're not serious people, and what that means, and how his children are still behaving like children. The kids have never had to actually work for anything. They're just they're like playing as adults almost. Like, they're playing to do business and not really doing business. They've never actually done or achieved anything real, but they believe themselves to be important and intelligent and like they actually have skills, when in reality they just are not serious people. They've ever had to work for anything in any true sense. So that's where we kind of are at, heading into Connor's wedding. So we get to this episode and we start with Roman taking a call from Logan. Roman and his relationship with Logan is very complicated, I think, especially at this point, because he on one hand feels very betrayed by Logan in many senses, but at the same time he will always go running, as they all do, but I think Roman especially will always go running back to Logan. And so Logan essentially forces Roman to fire Jerry, which obviously if you've seen the show you know that like Roman and Jerry have a very close relationship, a very weird relationship, but you know, asking and forcing him to do that is very hard on Roman, and yeah, it puts him in such an uncomfortable spot. And then it becomes clear as well during this kind of first 10 or so minutes of the episode that Logan has no intention of going to Connor's wedding. He doesn't see a reason of going to see Connor and Willa get married, and so he is getting on a flight to go see Lukas Matsson to work on that deal. And yeah, it's like, as we know already from everything we've seen of Logan, is that business is more important to him than his kids, and that is only reconfirmed here with him refusing to go to Connor's wedding, but not really letting Connor know. So he's like walking around telling everyone, oh, he'll be here soon. The rest of the siblings, you guys just have to like hide out while Logan's here for a minute and then it'll be good. And like, it's very sad to watch from that side, like how Connor has the hope that like, oh, his dad will show up, and then Logan ultimately has no intention of doing so at all. But so he's on the flight and the kids are at the wedding, and we start to see a couple of times that Tom is trying to call Shiv, and Shiv keeps ignoring it because they're also estranged right now and they're separated and they're not really speaking. But so Shiv keeps ignoring the calls, and then eventually Tom calls Roman, and Roman is with Kendall at this time, and immediately it becomes very clear this is very serious. Tom sounds quite panicked, and he says that they're currently doing CPR and chest compressions on Logan on the plane. That he was in the bathroom and then he collapsed and he was unconscious, and now they're trying to revive him. And pretty instantly, obviously, everything we know kind of shifts at this point, because we've, in like the first season of Succession, we're always kind of faced with the idea that Logan could die soon. That is why he is so adamant in finding a successor as soon as possible, but at the same time he refuses to. But I almost think in later seasons we kind of, as an audience, start to forget that Logan could die any minute, and so to see this point where like it's very likely he could die, that he may already be dead, it shifts everything that we know about the show and also and where we're headed, and also for the kids shifts everything. So we see Tom essentially start holding the phone to Logan's ear and having Roman and Kendall talk to him, say their final goodbyes essentially if he doesn't wake up again. And at this point we start to really see the complicated nature of each of Logan's kids' relationships with him, because they are simultaneously like saying that they love him and that they want him to wake up and they don't know what they do without him, but in the same breath there are moments where they're like, we can't forgive you for things. And it's really heartbreaking to watch, like everyone kind of reckoning with the fact that they simultaneously dislike Logan, think he is truly awful, but also are like so devastated by the loss of him, or the potential loss of him at this point. And so we see Kendall and Roman will always revert back to a childlike state when he panics. We've seen glimpses of it before, but we really see it here, and again, it's just really hard to watch. He's like, And then he like physically records, is like, I can't do that. He hands this phone to Kendall. I'd say Kendall's probably the most conflicted, which I'm not surprised by, because I think in general he in many ways has the closest relationship with Logan of the kids, but at the same time has probably the most strained relationship. He's the one that's attempted the most moves on him business-wise, and yet overall it's just a very difficult moment to watch Kendall reckon with that. And it's at this point that then Tom tells him they should go tell Shiv what's happening so she can say her goodbyes. And my god, the shot of Kendall walking and searching through the wedding to find Shiv to like tell her is just, I mean, a masterclass from everyone involved in making it, but it's so difficult to watch. And then Shiv as well reverts back to like this childlike state when she finds out, and she's, you know, like she has like this desperation. She's like begging Logan, like, please don't die, like I'm not ready for you to die. And again from Shiv, we've only seen glimpses of her being vulnerable before, and usually this is in relation to her marriage with Tom. It's normally their conflict that shows like a vulnerable Shiv. And so it's very jarring to kind of watch Shiv and Roman in particular, who we don't see kind of crack as much in this moment, and how they both are kind of reverted back to these children that like love their dad, but they also find him so impossible. And I think in general, why I wanted to make this video and why I think this is such a pivotal point is because it's kind of the most raw and vulnerable we see our characters, but it's also like the first time that we see them as truly human in many ways, because they really, and as who they truly are at the core, in a more genuine sense, because through so much of the show they're kind of constantly performing to appear more authoritative and to appear like stronger and more capable than they often are. Yeah, again, it's just watching the moment where everything shifts for everyone. And then it's kind of after Shiv is talks to Logan, talks to Tom, that they have to go tell Connor. And Connor's is probably the strangest reaction of them all, and also I think in many ways the saddest, because immediately after finding out he first says, well, is he, you know, like he needs this like concrete confirmation, like, is Logan dead? And then immediately after that he says like, oh, he didn't even like me, which is so devastating. And then him quickly saying, no, I don't know what I mean actually, because he like feels bad for his siblings, he's trying to protect them more. And it's just so much, like this is just the most raw and vulnerable we have ever seen any of our characters in Succession. I also do think it's important to mention what Kendall tries to do at this point, where he's like trying to make calls and decisions in an attempt to retain control. I think for Kendall, as we've seen previously, because he's the only one we've really seen have a breakdown before, we've seen him like in moments of panic try to be the one who fixes things and has all of the control, and we watch him attempt that again here. But it's also different to the previous breakdowns we've seen Kendall go through, because Logan really is the centre of his world and all of the siblings' world, and not just like a way that your father normally would be, but in a far more all-encompassing way because of who Logan is. I also think Tom is very interesting in this episode, because he's clearly very distraught. I mean, Tom at this point has been in the family for at least a couple years, probably a few years. I don't know how long Tom and Shiv dated before they got married, but he's clearly distraught. But he was also using like his business mind. He calls Greg to kind of position himself as like, I was here, to show that he was close to Logan, to try and retain some power in the coming days, because ultimately the fight for power hasn't ended with this. Like, Logan's death hasn't ended the fight for power and for a successor. All it's done is expedite it, now this is rushed and everyone's trying to position themselves the right way. Even, Kendall at one point says, like, this will be written in, history books, like, what we did the day our dad died, so we just need to keep that in mind. And I think that's something truly devastating about how the Roy family operates in general and how it's kind of forced to because of it being a business as well, is that, like, their dad died, but also we have to think about the positions we should be in for the business in order to retain our control, because otherwise we'll lose everything. I think it's so horrific. But yeah, I find it very interesting how Tom, it's kind of the first time we see start to do that. And they make sure people know I was here, I was with Logan when he died, that I was still a close support. And it's just like, so, it feels gross. Like, his body is like barely cold on the floor of this plane, and Tom's like calling Greg, like, hey, make sure I'm in a good position after this so that then I can protect us. And that, the siblings have to consider how it will be perceived, their actions on the day their dad died. So obviously, Connor's wedding. Also, sorry, before I even move on to the next point, Connor and Willa still get married. Connor still decides to get married this day. I guess for him, it's like, Logan didn't even intend to show up to his wedding in the first place and he's died, but he can still have his kind of semblance of happiness, I guess, through marrying Willa, even though that's a whole nother situation that I will talk about in my full series analysis. Obviously, moving on from this point, from Connor's wedding, Logan's death, nothing in the show is the same, nothing is the same for our characters. Without Logan, who is the centre around which everyone orbits, there's just they now have to focus on where they're going, and that is the Matsson deal that is still in process, and the fact that now a successor is necessary, and they are also individually fighting to be Logan's successor, but in the same point they need unity in order to retain power as a whole. And so this is like the one episode we see the siblings really have each other's back, but we have to watch the fight we've kind of been waiting for this entire show, which is who will the successor actually be, and as everyone's positioning themselves in the most advantageous places to attempt to be the one that does follow in the line of succession. So yeah, that was like my little episode breakdown for Connor's wedding, season 4, episode 3 of Succession. I wanted to talk about this one because I think it's, it's the first time we really see all of our characters at like a vulnerable and raw and more honest in many ways, and I think so much of the broader commentary of the show can kind of be encapsulated in this episode about the power dynamics and the complicated relationships this family will have with one another, and especially with Logan, due to the kind of cycle of abuse they've all lived under, and how they are still perpetuating those same issues, and also how the business impacts how they behave in every moment, including the day that their dad dies. I think, Connor's wedding really does show us kind of all the complicated, nuanced aspects of how this family business operates, and kind of shows us just how quickly this business shifts and how it, they can't even operate on like a truly human level because the business has to take precedent over their kind of humanity. And I think there's something so gross and horrific in that they can't even mourn properly. And as we see throughout the rest of the season, towards the end of the show, is kind of how even this pivotal point, which changes everything, in many ways also changes nothing, because everyone still ends up fighting to be a successor. The difference is now they're not asking for Logan's validation to achieve that, they are seeking to do so through other means. But yeah, I think that's kind of all I have to say about Succession Season 4, Episode 3, Connor's Wedding. I know it's just like a different format for me. Let me know if you liked this type of video, because there are a couple other like one-off episodes I would love to analyse further than a whole series. And as I said, I'm currently working on a full series analysis for Succession. It's just taking far longer for me to write. Obviously I've been very busy with moving, but things should calm down now. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, and if you'd like to see more from me, please hit the subscribe button. And if you would like to see more of me from other places as well, you can follow me on Instagram and TikTok. I also post my makeup and special effects work there as well, although I have been starting to remember to post shorts here on YouTube as well, so please watch those. But yeah, please do all those things. They will be linked below as usual if you want to. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.